back. You're watching Startup Central with me, Nantara Rai. This is your daily fix for anything to do with startups, entrepreneurship, technology, innovation, disruption. Ladies and gentlemen, write into us. Tell us how we can improve the show. Our email address right on top, suc@etina.tv. Pitch to us. Who knows, maybe one day you'll even be a part of the show. We began today's episode with, of course, the Zoogler and the big boss at Sequoia India, Rajan Anandan, talking about women and entrepreneurship. We also featured Shari Chahal of Shiros. She made quite a name when it comes to women empowerment, but also running a business only for women. If you're a woman, only then you can be on her app, Shiros. You can't be if you're a guy and have enough checks to figure out and throw out the men. But while we're talking about women and entrepreneurship, let's get into two other big voices. Google as well as Bain Capital.
We really care about universal access to information across the world. We believe information is powerful and it should be available to everybody. And what we saw in India is that in rural India in particular, only 1 out of every 10 internet users back in 2014 was a woman. So only 10% was female. And you don't see this kind of gap across the world. You actually see it's really stark here in India. And so we started a program called Internet Sathi to help show the women of rural India what benefits that they could get, train them on how they could use it, give them access to smartphones and tablets, and show them the way. And what we saw from that was that women were held back for no reason. This opened a world for them and a window for them to the world that they hadn't seen before. And what we've seen now is that since then, the participation of women online has increased to about 30 to 40%, and we see a big change. But what we saw is that when women are accessing information on the internet, they're doing really powerful things with it. They're not, just time pass kind of activities. They're using their time to find out information about agriculture, about education, about information for their children and their needs. And they also started to improve their livelihoods. So what we saw is that women were finding information about, let's say, agriculture or tailoring, a number of other different areas, and they actually started businesses of their own. And that's what really propagated us and provoked us to say, can access to information really help to yield and unleash what we're seeing in terms of entrepreneurship opportunities for women? Because what we've seen women doing fantastic things online, starting businesses where they're making honey to lemongrass oil to starting salons of their own, a number of different things. But what they've been able to do is to create kind of a standing for themselves and really improve the gender norms that they're subjected to. They get confidence, they have information, they become stronger. And that's why, we believe that women and entrepreneurship can really be a big force that we can see in terms of improvement in the economy.
Right. Do you think that there might also be a need for some sort of policy support or say some sort of government policy support so as to aid this to provide access to women in India?
I think, the good news is access is opening up on its own. I think we've seen such a huge transformation over the last several years that access is becoming available. Before it was either not affordable or not relevant, or the infrastructure wasn't there. And I think we've seen such a huge transformation over the last 3 to 4 years. And as we've gone into now over 290,000 villages in India, we've seen that access is not a barrier anymore in the way that it was before. At the same time, the government has been doing a number of things to provide access in terms of infrastructure, Wi-Fi, a number of other aspects, and we're seeing that push has really helped.
Right. So how long do you think it will take for these women to say, join the man force there as well, and then probably get the economy driving?
The report that we've done with Bain talks about how women will create up to 150 to 170 million jobs, which is powerful. I can't put a time limit on terms of when we think we'll get there. I think the good news is India tends to leapfrog and advance, so I'm hopeful that we'll get there as fast as possible. Equity, and that's what we believe. Universal equity is what's important. It's going to take time. We're just starting. I think today's report was really just a step in the right direction to say, what can we do? How do we do that? What are the barriers that we need to overcome? And so it's just a step, one step forward.
Right. If we talk about the Indian economy, then right now we have a finance minister who's a woman, and it's the first time that India has a full-time finance minister, a woman, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. So do you think we have already started taking baby steps towards the kind of dream that you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, she presents an incredible role model for many, and I think ultimately, role models are what the world needs to see, what India needs to see. So of course, that's a step in the right direction, and we're hopeful.
All right. A quick last question: what is the best advice that you have got as a woman in your career so far?
I think the best advice I've heard is sometimes we hold ourselves back as women. That it's not just society, it's not just infrastructure, it's not all of the barriers that are presented before us. It's actually sometimes ourselves that hold us back, and so sometimes you need to get the voices in your head that tell you shouldn't move forward, and you need to dismiss them. The best advice is, I say, stop the voices in your head and just move forward.
Women are playing a very crucial role in India, so they've actually taken the plunge. I do believe that where there is huge opportunity for improvement is in their participation in paid formal work. In that respect, I think there are a number of factors that are holding women back, and I think it'll be the first one is in a cultural context. I think we're only now starting to elevate the dialogue on the importance of women and their inclusion in the economy. I think even today, for most of India, it is not something that is emphasized from the time women start, from the time they're adolescents, from the time they're even in undergraduate or business schools. It's not really spoken. It's not really emphasized the way it should, and I say women are contributing despite that today, and women are contributing heavily despite that. I think the second thing around what is holding women back as entrepreneurs is the fact that I think there has to be we cannot apply a broad brushed approach. We have to apply a very nuanced approach to different segments of entrepreneurs. The needs of a hyper-scaling entrepreneur in urban India are very different from the needs of a rural agripreneur. They're both equally important, and they both have to be looked at as entrepreneurs, but the solutions will need to be different. I think the third one, which over time will hopefully solve itself, but we want to find a way of accelerating the solution, is having more role models. And role models, again, in different parts of India. It cannot be just urban role models. It cannot just be corporate leaders. I do believe they're very important and are making a huge difference by being role models, but I think we need role models at the community level. We need role models at levels which are relatable across the length and breadth of India, and not just role models that appeal to a few segments of India.
Right. If we talk about the Indian economic scenario right now, then on the driver's seat we have a woman finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, who is steering the economy of India right now. In fact, even if we look at India Inc., then there are a lot of leaders who are at the helm. Yeah. So do you think Indian women have been able to break the glass ceiling so far, or do we still have a long mile to cover?
So I would say it's a little bit of both. So there are enough examples to show that women have broken the glass ceiling. In the past, it used to be only in a few sectors, but we can see it in the cabinet, in various positions of leadership across the private sector, the government, the non-profit sector. Having said that, I think we have to acknowledge that we do have a long way to go as well. It's not just about the glass ceiling. When we look at the numbers, we are still at 25% labor force participation rate for women, right? That is 25% of women who are of working age are actually actively seeking work or are actively employed. I think those numbers for itself tell us that we do have a long way to go, and in many other areas, India has shown that it doesn't have to wait for generations. Change doesn't have to wait for generations. I do believe there are several creative solutions and models that are already in place in various parts of India. We've had a chance to look at them, and in that respect, yes, we do have a long way to go, and we do believe that the solutions have been in play in different parts of India. I think it's time to take a coordinated and a very time-bound approach to say, let's change this. We see changes in different aspects of the economy. I think it's on us to decide how quickly we can make, and it's absolutely critical for us to not squander away the massive opportunity in terms of the massive economic potential that we have access to in form of the number of women and men who are excluded from the workforce and those who are actually in the workforce and not employed today.
What are the opportunity areas that are currently there in the Indian entrepreneurship scenario so as to unlock the full potential of women?
Sure. So as we've articulated in our report, we do believe that entrepreneurship for women in India cannot be looked at as one broad brush. We've identified 4 points which we believe are critical for the agenda in India. The first is, how do you level the playing field for those high impact entrepreneurs who are entrepreneurs who have scaled, who have built their businesses and now looking to super scale. The second is prime the willing middle for growth. And the willing middle are small business owners, are solopreneurs who have ventured into entrepreneurship and now have ambitions to scale. They're willing, they want to scale their businesses. How do we define, how do we enable them with the right structural support, context-specific knowledge, navigation support for accessing the financial ecosystem? The third is expanding the funnel. How do we get more solopreneurs in? How do we get more women who today don't fully understand and don't recognize and are not aware of the merits of entrepreneurship and how that can exist in harmony with one's personal, like I said, responsibilities or priorities. And the fourth major opportunity for India is in cultivating productive agripreneurs. Agripreneurs are going to continue to be a very critical and integral part of the Indian economy. We have to find the opportunity here is in developing rural agripreneurs, women agripreneurs, as a way of not just modernizing the agricultural ecosystem, but actually transforming the entire rural ecosystem in India.